Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock, practicing necromancer. And today I want to talk about self mastery. What is it? Why is it important? And most importantly, why should you do it? Well, for years, I was just like the average Joe, just playing a role in society. The good guy, bad guy, it didn't matter. Somebody wanted to start drama. Well, guess what? I was right there with them. I used to be like that until one day you wake up and it's like, what's the fucking point? It's just another day, same old shit, right? Why do I do now? Where do I go from here? When you reach that point, you start exploring alternatives. You start branching out into religions, philosophies. You start getting into psychology, even. You start wondering, questioning things about you and your life. You reflect over your past. And before long, you realize, hey, I've actually got a good sized library, my own personal library. Excuse me. And before long, you realize people see you as an elder. They see you differently because you're not acting like everyone else in society. You're not going with the flow, doing what you're told, or being led by the hand. No. They can sit you down and say it's like having an argument with a coworker, and it's like, hey, it's like putting two alphas in the same room. Well, first off, are you sure both of them are alphas? Or is one an alpha and the other one's a stigma? Because alphas really don't like stigmas. Hmm. People don't like when they other people who enforce their rights. They don't in, like people who step on toes. But all you have to do is flex your muscle once, showing your might, and they back off as they are cowards. But they'll also play the game of saying, well, it's a matter of finding the right teacher or the right time. We can't teach at the same time. So it may take some time. Well, this is a way to divert your attention. And that's what they're hoping for. Because you've stepped on toes, you've created a wave throughout the place of employment. You've enforced your right, becoming the adversary, the bad guy, the El Shaitan. And then you become the accuser because you call them out on their shit, right? So therefore, you become the Ha Satan in the Hebrew sense compared to the Jewish perspective of the bad guy role. But it doesn't explain what is self mastery. Self mastery takes a good long journey into yourself. your entire world to see who you are and what you're absolutely about. To most, it's when they step into the role of a Satanist, for an example, it's about becoming that adversary, that bad guy, and playing the part. But does that make them evil? Does it make them the adversary? No. It just makes them a tyrant. Think of that Nickelback song, Never Again. What was that one lyric in the middle of the song where it says, Father is a name you haven't heard yet? You're just a child with a temper. Kicking your ass would be a pleasure, basically. That's basically all they know, is because it's about being that adversary. It's about being that accuser because a book tells them to. You see, that's not self mastery. That's not self growth. That's not about bettering yourself. I once had a teacher who said, I don't want my students to be average. I want them to be better. My son's first grade teacher said this. And it was interesting because if you actually think about it, in today's society, being that average Joe is good enough. Nobody pushes beyond. Nobody goes above and beyond. And I look back at my job as an opener, as a baker, the primary baker, the teacher of bakers and openers. When the owner and the former district manager, the former regional manager wanted everybody's model to be based off me because I had everything done and out on the floor by within an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half max. I was just putzing for the next 30 to 35 minutes. That was it. Hell, even the other shift leader that we had at the time, you know, before she left, said she went to our general manager at the time and said, just schedule me at 5. There's no point in me coming in at 4 because everything is done. There's nothing for me to do. I'm bored, you know, because he's got everything done. Excuse me. I'm also getting over a cold, thanks to my son. So it's okay. But yeah, it's interesting to see how much you can do and what you can do. You got what you think you can do and what you can actually do. And since I stepped foot on the path of being a necromancer, becoming a lick in training, I found it interesting that the nature of the master and apprentice is not everybody's going to do the work for you. They will guide you to the material, but it's up to you. It is your responsibility to do the work. And they have a list per year. It's like a list per year, and it kind of shows you your development or developmental stages, if you will, just like the charts that you see at a school for your kids. Every time we have a parent teacher meeting, I'm shown a piece of paper by the teacher and by a I wouldn't call it a special ed type resource director or whatever you want to call them, who come in and say, oh yeah, we work with the kids and we study them and we try to figure out where their standings are. It's It's not bad, it's not good, it's just we're just testing them every so often. It's like 2, 3 times a year. And by the end of the year, we expect them to be at this level. Now they're now they're doing the levels by letters of the alphabet. And it's like, geez, anybody remember the old days when you just got a report card saying you got A, B's, and C's? Why does it have to be so freaking complicated these days? You know? And the fact that the teacher and the principal doesn't even, the teachers and the principal doesn't even understand the math that's being put forth. It's like if you don't understand the math itself, why the hell are you putting it forth to a first grade student? I'm just saying, you know? So my son's grandparents, they have a hell of a time trying to understand this type of math. So I get probably about 99%, all but maybe one or two questions, and I help my son do the math. Perhaps it's because I've been watching and studying the Japanese and the German way of doing the math within the box, and they have about four numbers and four different separate boxes, and you get to add everything in and write everything outside the box to get the actual figure. And it's funny because what is self mastery in this case? You're growing, you're learning, you're studying, right? That's why you go to school. That is why you're trying to develop the skills through the knowledge that is being passed down from teacher to student, just like a master to an apprentice. And I was talking about this with one of my apprentices just last night. And we were talking about the definition of pure evil. Why is it becoming better, a better version of you, and not going by society's norms makes you evil? You have an opinion and you speak the facts from your own research, and somebody calls you an antichrist. They call you a devil. They call you an archdemon, you know, evil, vile, whatever. And you can go through just about every one of the world's epic tales from the Odyssey to Paradise Lost. You can go into Slavic mythology and look at Kakashi, the Deathless One, and the epic tales surrounding him. How about Baba Yaga, even? How about Lilith? You know, and you look at the stories of, say, for example, let's go with Kakashi here. Here's a man that basically made a deal with a witch, a crone, according to the epic tales surrounding his history. Okay, and what it is it shows a story of obsession. Okay, it's literally an obsession, if you will. The prisoner aspect, if you will. But the question comes down to who's the prisoner? Who's the one that's obsessed to the point of being in a prison, in that cell? So this queen marries a king. The king starts exploring his castle, his new home. And he goes up into one of the towers and he sees this man, this old, withered man, dying of thirst, or what he perceived to be dying of thirst, chained to a wall. So he becomes a nice guy, one of the good Samaritans, and he gives the man, this old, withered man, a sip of water. All of a sudden, he reverts back to a young stud. He breaks free, he kidnaps the queen, takes her back to his homeland. His own kingdom, which is like a barren, frozen land of snow and ice. It's a big forest. So the king tries to rescue his queen, his beloved queen. And the story goes that Kakashi let him go. Tries him two, three times to rescue that queen without success. But yet Kakashi clearly let him go because the queen asked him to. Now, again, when we look at the terminology of what it means to be pure evil, the very definition is somebody who is merciless, somebody who lacks emotional control, someone who enjoys inflicting pain on somebody else. This is the definition of pure evil, and you can actually Google that. Okay. So, anyways, the king comes across Baba Yaga, okay, the witch of the 12th dimension. Okay, she's known as the withered old crone who goes after children. you know, and a lot of epic tales, even Baba Yaga mimics that of Lilith too. You know, Lilith, the Lilith, mother herself, the queen, the concubine of Satan and Samael. Okay, and here it is. So he makes a deal to watch over her flock for like a night. And the deal was that she would give him the fastest steed in the land, just like she did with Kakashi. But yet, she purposely had that fixed. Just like the trickster spirits, she let them loose. And because of the relationships forged between the young king and certain animal spirits, these spirits, these animal spirits brought the flock right back. So the next morning, she found all of them there. She's kind of surprised because she wanted him to fail. But he succeeded because of those animal guides. So she did it 2, 3 times. Finally, she said, "Here's the fastest steed in the land. Leave." And he succeeds in getting his queen back. But yet, not before he dismembered Kakashi. Cut him into pieces because he was unkillable. He was unkillable. So he had to cut him into pieces, put him into boxes, and bury him at the 4 corners of the earth. Just so he couldn't be put back together again. I find it interesting that this story also correlates with Osiris and Ra in Egyptian mythology. Because even Isis, the mother of witchcraft, went to Anubis, the jackal-headed god of the grave, learned necromancy to bring her beloved Osiris back from the dead, sewed him back together, and became associated forever with necromancy, the grave, and Anubis. So, what is the definition of pure evil? What is the definition of bettering yourself, self-mastery here? Was Kakashi the most vile being, as these epic tales claimed? No. The story shows that she was not a prisoner. Yeah, he kidnapped her, according to the epic tales. But she's the one that asked him to let her king, this young king, go to get away scot free. Never, and kept telling him, don't ever come back. Don't ever come back. But he kept coming back. That king kept coming back. Was he obsessed with the combat, the challenge of overcoming Kakashi? Is that not obsession? Beating your opponent? Where's the self mastery here? But making that introspective reflection of the self, the action, the history, that shows you your failures. That shows you how you can overcome your past failures and learn from them. The king, he was the pure, vile, evil being. Why? Because he's the one that cut Kakashi into pieces. He's the one that kept making the deal with Baba Yaga. He was the one that was obsessed with this deathless Slavic entity known as Kakashi. And like the Trojan War, it was all over a woman. It was all over a woman. Ironic. So, knowing what obsession is, understanding what it takes to be victorious, we can actually look at these epic tales and see our own lives. We can look at it from a perspective of goal setting. If you have a goal, don't let anything stop you from achieving it. Don't let anything hinder you, distract you from that goal. Society has rules, laws that limit you. I mean, take a look at, for an example, the United States Constitution. These were 29 individual statutes that gave all men and women and children freedom to make a living, right? But yet corporations hinder you. They constantly break the law and get away with it. So, how do you make that injustice a justice? First of all, if you're not a part of that system, you're able to go from the darkness into the light and veer your perspective, your vision is clear without cloudiness, without fog. You can see into the light, whereas those in the light looking into the darkness cannot see you. They fear what's in the darkness. So when you set a goal, do whatever needs to be done to achieve that goal. But here it is. This is the one key piece of information here. You're going to have roadblocks. Think of them as tests and trials to see if you're worthy to have them. Knowledge is power, and true knowledge is undefiled wisdom. Anton Zandileve, the Satanic Bible. I was listening to a video on YouTube put forth by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he was talking about weightlifting for like 4 to 6 hours a day. Those in the gym, they look discouraged, they look frustrated, they look withered and tired. And somebody asked him, "Why are you smiling? Why are you so cheerful while working out?" And he said, "Because I have a goal and I want to achieve that goal." For him, it was Mr. Olympia, that title. If you want the title of master, to be called a expert in occult practices, if you want to be a shift leader or a general manager of a restaurant, such as say Dunkin' Donuts, Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, wherever, you got to have that goal. You got to have a plan to get to that goal. But you've got to have the knowledge under your belt to achieve it. It's not about the courage to step up to the plate and demand it. It's not about the courage to sit there and say, "Hey, you need to promote me because aren't you tired of watching these other idiots come in, you promote them and they leave? Why not be loyal to those who are loyal to the company?" You see, they're not going to respond to that. But if you sit there and you actually bring up the exact penal codes and say, "Hey, under me," let's say, for an example, you're going by wage and hour or the labor laws. Okay. Number one, you have equal rights. That means you have a fair chance to go for the same titles, the same jobs. If you are a part timer, you still have that opportunity. According to equal rights, those on, say, for an example, disability, even, let's say, for an example, you're disabled, you're in a wheelchair, or let's say, for an example, you have, let's say, grand mal seizures, or let's say a mood disorder, or something that is a mental health issue. Let's say, for an example, you can only work part time because of that, because you're on Social Security or Social Security disability. The labor law says that you have the same rights to go for to make a living and to move up in a company rank wise. Okay. Now people will make the how should I say this? They will make the statement, well, it comes down to the company's needs. No, it doesn't. That's a bold faced lie because of the fact that, according to the statutes, it's about seniority. Who's been there the longest? Okay. Who's been there the longest? That's who you promote first. Second of all, it doesn't matter if you're part time or full time, it's called equal rights. If you go against that, then you are in violation of the equal rights Miranda. Okay. Now, knowing this knowledge, this little tidbit of knowledge, you can literally flex your muscle and force their hand. So, number one, you already know your job as, say, for example, a baker, or, say, for example, a med tech, an MA, or, say, for example, an MRCA. Okay. You could be a CNA for all I care, but here it is. Having that knowledge about your personal rights, you can force their hand. Now they're not going to be happy about it. They're not going to be happy about it because they want you to be submissive. They want you to be that thoughtless drone in the background, just like everybody else. It doesn't matter if you just get out of college, they want to make you a manager. 2 months ago, for example, my company hired this guy. as a shift leader. Within 2 weeks, he was AGM, and now he's a general manager. Okay. But you look at his history, he was actually a manager at a different company. So obviously, he's bringing that experience over to this new company. As my cat is spazzing underneath my feet. So, how do you master your world? You've got to start with yourself. This means you got to be willing to sacrifice everything to achieve that goal. That means you have to spend countless hours studying. This means complete fealty, okay, to your practice, to your chosen career. For an example, what does it take to gather knowledge? Do you remember being in high school? Perhaps you're currently in high school. How many hours do you take per night just to do your homework? Do you go to that particular book or books? Do you go through the pages, through the glossary to find the topic in general and then go down and read each thing to find the answer that you need for that particular topic, be it science, biology, chemistry, or history? Think about that for just a minute. That same amount of dedication is what you want to bring to your chosen field. What makes you happy? What makes you happy? What are you good at? It's not just dedication to the studies, but it's also commitment to seeking out that truth, to seeking out those answers. You got to bring all of this to your everyday life. Dedication, commitment, complete fealty to that. And when you're going in and meditating daily, when you are reflecting upon the day's events, about who you are, about commun let's say, for example, you're doing a ritual or a rite, you're preparing for it. What type of ritual are you doing? What tools do you need to do that? What if you can't find the tools? How do you compromise, and what do you substitute for the missing tool that you need? What can be substituted for that? If you didn't know, then what's the point of studying, right? I can tell you that I've spent countless hours. I have sacrificed my relationship with my son's mother. Don't even get me started on the fact that she cheated on me 3 times before I kicked her out due to her lack of loyalty. But even to this day, my mother is constantly throwing it in my face that I'm always supportive of her. What would she do if I wasn't there? Society has brought people up into 2 factions: those who succeed and those who don't, the loyal and the disloyal. It's always two, always two. Well, I look at it this way: I'm loyal to me and mine. She is the mother of my child. Obviously, I'm going to take her under my wing and watch over her, make sure she's protected. Not just my child, to whom I have trusted her with. Okay? That is part of being a man. You have a man's job and you have a woman's job, according to society. But what about a witch or warlock perspective? What is your commitment? What is your dedication? What is your responsibility in that area? In that area, that field of study? Do you have the same resolve as you do with your family? How about your career? How do you find out what you're truly about if you don't look at yourself? If you don't set those goals? You know, about a year or two ago, I started reading Robert Greene's work. Now, up until this period of time, I was dedicated to research, study. I wrote 7 essays, four about five of which were published in four different books. But here it is. Robert Greene, I always followed, for example, War and Peace. Awesome book on political role playing. The roles of espionage and warfare. You know, the work of the spy, if you will. You get into Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and you learn about what it takes to learn about how to defend yourself, how to when to fight, when not to fight. You get into, say, for an example, philosophies such as Marcus Aurelius. Um, let's go with, let's say, for an example, Epictetus. How about Plato? Or, say, for an example, Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche had some very in depth thought processes. And you could tell that the wisdom that he put forth, especially in the book Good and Evil, touched base on a lot of different subjects, from teachers to marriage to relationships. Look at your practices with the deities that you worship, that you work with. It's based off equality, right? So, how do you get into that mind frame of bettering yourself? Why is it important to better yourself? Knowing all of this that I just laid forth here. Bettering yourself is about your knowledge. It's about achieving the goals that you put forth. Years ago, I existed. I just simply existed. I just practiced my craft. I wasn't interested in relationships. I wasn't interested in making friends. I kept losing friends to death. Never understood why. Never stopped to wonder why. Never stopped to ask that question. Why did I not pay more attention? When I was in high school, why did I not pay attention to my academics, my education, like I do today? Why did I not notice that people's perception of me shifted? I went from being one of them to an elder and didn't even notice. It took an apostolic minister to suggest the ministry to me. Just because he mentioned it, I decided to delve into it. Became a deacon, 2011, 2013. After mastering that level, became an ordained priest. Spent years just being a priest. Oh, excuse me. So you sit there and you focus upon that role, but you never stop to ask why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? What is it about this particular topic that fascinates you? And what are you willing to do to achieve that goal? Recently, since I began this journey, last year I thought everything was going good. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hardships. Even when I became an archbishop, that last September of last year, I thought everything was going good until I found out my ex had cheated on me yet again. I walked away from my job. I just basically said, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I've had enough of this shit, this drama. I took a month and a half of just deep reflection. I drank every day, worked through a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, did long walks, didn't really exit my apartment that much. I became a secluse for like a month and a half. But when I came back out after doing all those rituals and all those rites over that month and a half, I'm talking curses, I'm talking hexes, I'm talking in-depth, reflective thought process upon myself, my life, what led it to that point. I realized two things was occurring. Number one, it was a physical attack by someone in the background. Number two, it was a spiritual attack upon me, my family. That pissed me off. That pissed me off bad. So I started doing rites, I started doing rituals, and I realized I'm going to focus on myself now. Now that all this shit's done, it's put to bed, it's behind me. And last January 1st, this year, I began this spiritual journey that's going to take me another year and 4 months to go through. Maybe longer, I don't know. That's the thing about the future is you don't know. It's never set. So here it is. I started focusing on my craft, started working on phylacteries again. I started making powders, started redefining and defining the very tools that I use, meditation on a daily basis. And before I realized it, I realized one thing: I am good at vile magic. It is a passion, it is a thing that I enjoy. I enjoy performing magic. This is something that really fits me. This is why I've done it for so many years. So many years. And it came down to this. I look at how I've been spending the last 6 years, just the last 4 to 6 years. All the hours that I sat there reading, studying, practicing, note taking. How many times I've gone down to the public library, ordered books from other states, other countries even that were on their little database connection. The further I got into death magic, the more I enjoyed it. And before I realized it, I had a lifestyle put together. I had a philosophy that I lived by. I have I've had so many clients this year alone that it was surprising. You got to repeat clients as well. But I'm still being that baker. But yet I've got people looking at me, sitting there going, why are you still associated with your son's mother? Why are you helping her? It's because of our son. I'm not going to let my son go without. If that means helping her, then I will do it. It's got nothing to do with what she's done. That's on her. She wants to listen to her family. That's on her. She doesn't want to take the advice I give from my own personal experiences. That's on her. It goes in one side and out the other. You want to learn? or you want to stay stagnant? I want to become a god. I want to become better than I was yesterday. My goal that I put forth is to better myself. I want to reach those heights beyond each day. I had a teacher that recommended a book to me. This led me into another book and another and another and another. But Robert Greene's books were deep, reflective works. Things like, now, let me show you. All right. The first book I got from him, obviously, was The 48 Laws of Power. Second one, 33 Strategies of War. The Art of Seduction. And then I decided to reach out and get the 50th Law. That one was actually based off 50 Cent and his life. I started learning about human nature. Started learning about mastery of the self. And I really enjoyed that. And realizing that people and what we do are two different things. Not everybody is worth your attention. Not everybody is worth being in your world. A lot of times it comes down to what you enjoy and what you're seeking. But like I said, deliberate discomfort. This book really got me thinking about myself, how I speak, how I reply to people. Things that I never really thought about before about myself. When somebody asks you who you are, do you just come out and say, "Oh, I'm a black magician"? Oh, fuck, they just ran for the hills, right? Why not think about your word or word phrases and go, well, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. Because let's face it, as a black magician, when you throw a hex or you throw a curse, are you not teaching that individual a lesson? Are you not ridding the world of something that's not worth being in the world? Think about that. So, in essence, instead of coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm a necromancer or I'm a Satanist," just come out and say, "Hey, I'm a teacher." I really liked that book. I really liked it. Brought it brought a lot to the surface. And then I got into thanatology, psychology and everything. I went on, but I went to Books of a Million and I was just sitting there reading through the books, trying to find a good book that really spoke to me psychology wise. Because I have the Christian theology and the Christian counseling book that I've had for years. But I came across Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, an antidote for chaos. I really like this book. He really brings in a lot of psychological perspectives. For an example, I want to read from this real fast, and I'm going to just read a little bit of a paragraph. Page XV in the foreword. To understand ideology, Jordan read extensively about not only the Soviet Gulag, but also the Holocaust and the rise of Nazism. I had never before met a person born Christian and of my generation who was so utterly tormented by what happened in Europe to the Jews and who had worked so hard to understand how it could have occurred. I too have studied this in depth. My own father survived. Okay. I'm not even going to pronounce that last name. But he said my grandmother was middle aged when she stood face to face with Dr. Joseph Mingo, a physician within the World War II, um, and so forth. But you notice the perspective there. How did it occur? What is the thought form about this? And I realized something when I was talking to my mother this morning because she texted me out of the blue, "Are you home?" And I said, "Yeah, why? It's like 8 a.m. Where else would I freaking be on my day off?" you know? And she says, "Well, your son wants you to take him to school." I said, "Okay, I'll get dressed and come out and get him." She says, "We're going into Tim Hortons." I said, "Okay, where would you like to meet?" And I said, "You want to meet at the school?" And she goes, "Yeah, why not?" So we get there, we start talking about me and his mom. And I told her point blank that yesterday she asked me, "What did I think about this? About her doing this?" And I said, "It's not about what I think, it's about what you think." That was a complete psychological review of thought. I did that without even noticing it because the track record is every time she's come to me, I've always given her my opinion. Well, I've always told her, you need to do this. And she would always put her foot down and kind of drag her feet and then wonder, why did I not listen? The shit has hit the fan. Well, it comes down to this: you either do it or you don't. Psychology, self mastery. If you want that job, you have to be the one to go out and seek it. You have to sit there and fill out the application. You have to hound them to keep your name and your face fresh in their mind, saying, "Hey, I want this fucking job." You know? And this is completely different from a job coming to you saying, "Hey, we want you back." Okay? Because if they want you back, then the question is not should you take the job, but how bad do they want you back? Are they willing to give you a promotion? Are they willing to give you an office? Are they willing to give you a pay raise? Because everything in this world revolves around money and finances. So even if you go to an occult store, you're going to notice that the prices are up. I mean, a stone alone. I mean, I have a block of jade that was $76 for just a thing about like this by about like this. It's not even that thick, but it was about that long and about that wide, widthwise. And then I bought a skull for $86. So in actuality, I paid almost 170 some odd dollars for two things of jade. Just a block of jade. So it comes down to money. And then you're paying for about 30, 15 to about anywhere from 30 to $40 for a grimoire, a journal that's leather bound. You're paying probably about $6 for just a small little gem like onyx or jade, $4 to $6 area for that. You're dealing with whatever you're paying for your tarot card deck, your altar cloths and such. So it does come down about money on everything. So the question is, how do you how do you make the decision to either follow the herd conformity or follow your own desires? I was contacted by Arnold Schwarzenegger about a month or so ago, and I set up a meet between him and a publisher that I know. because he was looking to forward his book, Be Useful: 7 Tools for Life by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, I'm pretty sure it wasn't him, it was more of somebody that works for him, but it's normally how it goes. But here it is. I actually took the time to read his book, to see his goals and his desires and his perspective of different eras in his life. From when he was a body from the military days to the bodybuilding days to the actor days, all the way to the governor's office of California. And now he's back being an actor. How did he achieve that? But through knowledge and wisdom and bettering himself. If he hadn't spent all those hours dedicated and committed to each muscle in his body, how would he have become Mr. Olympia 5 times? If he didn't take acting classes or ask questions about how to be a better actor, how would he have become a big action star? If he didn't set that goal to be the governor, how would he have become the governor of California? If he didn't sit down and think about his life, how would he have not written this book? But these 3 books are very thought provocative. They really, on different levels, hit you wondering, wow, how do I speak? How do I deal with society knowing what I know? Do I want to be a part of society? Do I even need to be? If I listened to every jack off that said I couldn't do anything, would I be where I'm at today? Would I be where I'm at? I I don't just have a black belt. I didn't just graduate from high school. People said I would never graduate from high school. Well, guess what? I graduated. Wasn't the top of my class, but I graduated. They said I'd never have a black belt. Well, guess what? I have a black belt. They said I wouldn't amount to anything. Well, guess what? I'm a full-time father. I look after my family. I'm bettering myself with knowledge. I'm creating powders and phylacteries and refining and redefining my own practices. I'm helping others as a teacher and as a spiritual guide. I became a minister, worked my way up to archbishop. Is that not a form of self mastery? Because I'm constantly redefining myself. I'm constantly bettering myself through knowledge and wisdom. You look at the knowledge from your experiences. Think about that for just a moment. How do you become better if you don't apply yourself to what you're doing? Number one, you can make up your own mind and stand by your own conviction. You have to take that step. No one else is going to do it for you. Number two, dedication, commitment, and complete fealty to what you do. Number three, gain that knowledge. Knowledge. If you look at the very definition of what a siren is in folklore, it is somebody that seeks out knowledge at any cost. Doesn't matter if the person lives or dies from the extraction of that knowledge. That is the very definition of a siren. The siren song, that attraction. In the Odyssey, it was said that Odysseus chained or tied his crew to the bow, because otherwise that siren's call, they would have led them to their death. Think about that for just a moment. I want you to think about that. He was so convicted in his his ways that he understood what was going on, what needed to be done to get between those two islands and get his people home. He understood what it meant to gain that knowledge to defeat the goddess of the underworld. He understood. Kakashi understood the sacrifices that it would take to become an immortal, the deathless one. Isis did what was necessary to align herself with Anubis to stand against Ra, just to get her lover back. You look at the demigods that stood against the gods for humanity. In fact, why don't we go to the Book of Giants, the Book of Enoch, even? Look at the wisdom of King Solomon's son, or King David's son, Solomon. Solomon the king. If you read the Bible, you'll notice that two bickering women claim to be the mother of a child. What was the wisdom behind him saying, execute the fucking child? Just behead the child. It wasn't about killing the child. He knew that the real mother would rather say, hey, let her have the kid. Let her have the kid. Why? Because only a real mother would not want to see her kid die. Wow. Now that is wisdom. That is knowledge. That is utilizing that wisdom through the knowledge and the experiences that you have in life. Look at the Nephilim. They were known as giants in the land, men of renowned wisdom and knowledge. So how can they be these vicious, vile creatures that caused a jealous God to flood the earth? In fact, why would you curse a serpent to lay on its belly and slither for all eternity when that's exactly what it does? It makes no fucking sense. But only through self mastery can you become better than you were yesterday. Through setting your goals, you can overcome society to the point where you realize, hey, I don't understand why you want to be in stagnation. I have all this knowledge, but yet you yourself don't understand it. Why would I waste my time giving you wisdom if you're not going to find it, if you're useful and apply it to your life? That is self-mastery. You want to come back, you want to be better? You want to become powerful? Put the hours in, put the time. It's not about how many hours, it's not about how much time you put in. It takes years to master. It takes years of dedication and hard work to achieve that level of success, that level of how should I say this, confidence in yourself. It takes years to even gain the ability to do what you need to do for your practices. You can't just read a book and go, I'm a master of darkness. No. You want to sit there and do all these YouTube channels, these TikTok channels of making your eyes look red. You want to sit there and go, here comes some gnosis to you. Wow. You're a dumbass. Congratulations. Well, guess what? I'm telling you, it don't work that way. There is no easy button. You have to work for everything that you have. Hell, even in the Bible, it says if you don't work, you don't eat. Ooh, you reap what you sow. How is that not wisdom? I'm not saying everything in the Bible is horse shit. I mean, a lot of it just don't make sense anyways. But you look at where it comes from. You go back into the material. You start learning the languages and you start delving into them. Oh, okay. The children of Belial came from the scroll of Amram. Now, where did the scroll of Amram come in? That's the Dead Sea Scrolls, Sanskrit. Or how about Satan sitting on the throne of hell? Oh wait, that goes back to the poetical text, which is the 16th, 17th century, where Jesus supposedly went into the underworld for 3 days, removed the Lord of the Witches' Sabbath, known as Beelzebub or Beelzebub, from the throne and put Satan on the throne. Wow. So how could he have been the badass all these centuries if he was just put on the throne 300 years ago? Or how about all these Bibles that have been written and rewritten so many times that you have branches on a tree for each one? And yet every single Bible goes back to the Vulgate Bible. Now, where did the Vulgate Bible originate? The Codex Gigas, known as the Devil's Bible. Ooh, interesting, huh? Knowledge, wisdom. But how would you know this if you did not study it? If you did not put the time and the effort into it? Again, self mastery. Flashiness gets you someplace quick, but it does not make you a master. In fact, if you want to be flashy, you want to have one of these flashy websites, well, guess what? You're not going to be around long. Do you know how many temples and covens have come and gone in 20 years? A lot. You want to be in the middle. You want to find that one spot where you get all the knowledge, all the wisdom, and you can find your way through anything. Even Marcus Aurelius in the Book of Meditations actually showed this. Didn't matter if it was Democrats or Republicans running the show in our modern language. It's about having that knowledge of where they're coming from, that you have the knowledge to control your own world and then stick up for it and defend it. It's about you and you alone, plain and simple. So, with that said, whatever you practice, always back it up with numerous sources and always make yourself available to the public because, number one, you are responsible for the things that you do and say to the public. And number two, you are responsible to how you represent yourself in this world because of those that you associate with from other realms and dimensions, such as demons, jinn, even angels, if you wish to associate with them. You represent them as your teachers and your guides. Be responsible. No one else is going to do it for you. But both sides will hold you accountable. So, I know some people have been. Black Tower, welcome. No, I have not read that book, Black Tower. I've heard the name Stephen Hawkins, but I've never gotten into his work. Twilight Son of Lilith, welcome to the channel. And that he did, but the Black Tower, he did start that nutritious lunch programs, which was kind of cool. I always thought that was cool because he always looked out for the little people, even no matter what level of fame. You set those examples and you went for them. Exactly. So, anyways, I want to thank Twilight, Son of Lilith, and the Black Tower for jumping on here with me, for interacting. If you like what you hear and what you see, feel free to hit the notification button. Feel free to subscribe. No one's really going to twist your arm here. You either want to learn or you don't. That's up to you. Only you can make that choice. Um, Outside of that, keep aiming for those stars. All right. Have a good day.